It was one of the most controversial killings in Kenya's history, involving a high-profile personality. And soon after the murder of the former Foreign Affairs Minister Robert Ouko, many of the investigators charged with the responsibility of bringing the culprits to book followed the same path. They died in mysterious circumstances. But George Luchiri managed to escape, and after 20 years in exile, he has returned home.
Nilikuwa nimeshikwa hapa, nimefungwa na kwa vile nilikuwa askari watu wangeniamini na Mungu alinisaidia nikatoroka.
Luchiri returned home to find a totally different environment. There is a witness protection bill in parliament that could see a witness protection system in place soon. But Luchiri says that it is the forthcoming referendum that has been a catalyst for his return.
I've come here to register as a voter and to see my people.
He also comes home at a time that a Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission has been set up.
So why did you flee?
I left the country in 1990 when situations were not favorable to my place of work following Dr. Robert Ouko's murder, of which I was part of the investigators from the then Security Intelligence Headquarters, the Special Branch. Then I went to the United Kingdom, where I became a refugee.
Tell us a bit about your growing up.
Yes, I come from Mumias in Western Kenya.
Yeah.
And my coming to the city was as a result of my parents divorcing, which is something that will require another day to cover. But to be in short, my mother and father divorced when I was 4 years old. And then my father left for Uganda and remarried. So I was left under the custody of my grandparents. Mm-hmm. My grandfather being a village catechist, Roman Catholic, and my grandmom being the same. At the age of 6, I was molded by a python, which when I was taking care of my grandparents' animals with the other grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, she was killed and I survived, but I was partially deaf for a while.
Who died? Your grandmother?
No, the snake, the python.
Oh.
Yeah, it was killed, or she was killed.
Oh, okay.
And then I was rescued, but then I survived with partial injuries, of which I have scars on my body, the squeezing of the skin. And then that in itself made it worse because my mom had been actually branded as a witch because she could not give birth immediately she was married.
Yes.
Because 16 cows were paid as dowry. So they expected her to give birth simultaneously and immediately. Mm. When it took 2 years, they came up with a conclusion that there was something wrong with this woman.
Yeah.
But when she bore me, that's when her problem started, because that was like a disapproval to their myth and what have you.
Okay.
So when I was born, she was excommunicated from the village, and a small hut was built for her outside the village, where she stayed as an outcast.
Okay.
And then later on, when she became pregnant of my second sister, and while she was in labor alone, things went so bad that my young sister died thereafter, and that's when she left. Mm-hmm. So when she left, I continued, as I said, about the snake, and then I was removed from that village to go far away so that I don't contaminate the family with my mother's witches. Mm. So I used to go for about 10 kilometers in a school known as Buhui Primary School, which is more or less like 2 hours walk. Mm. So I used to wake up very early in the morning, I would go and come back. Then, unfortunately, in 1969, it rained during lunchtime, and we had gone to seek shelter that we could actually beg for porridge, because the woman there was selling porridge.
Yeah.
And then the lightning hit her, hit the place, and she died, plus another woman. So I was severely burned on my right shoulder, which I think when I joined the police, they didn't actually examine me properly. Mm-hmm. Otherwise I would not have joined the police. Yeah, but that is God's fate.
Yeah.
Then after that, things went so bad in that I walked in search of my mother, whom I could not even recognize that particular time. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in Busia, and I was like walking that direction because that's what I knew, she came from that direction. Mm-hmm. And fortunately or fortunately for me, I befriended a man of Somali origin and appearance who happened to be a driver of the long petrol hauliers. So the man brought me to Nairobi with an intent, which I didn't realize, that he was a purifier. So when he put me in his house, he went to buy milk, and eventually when he came back, he was hit by a vehicle, and he died on the spot. So on the same day, I was kicked out of that house, and I started now navigating my way around. And I graduated into a chokora.
Yes.
And I grew up in the streets, the harsh streets of Nairobi.
Yes.
And eventually, I joined the Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, because they used to come to the streets to give us what we call prashadam. And then I went to the temple in Ngara. I grew up in Ngara. They took me to school. And to say it in short, one of their worshippers, Mr. Ramlal Sharma of City High School, took me from the temple to his home in Ngara, where Pioneer International University is. That is the former City High School.
Yeah.
Where I was privileged to go to school.
Yes.
My classmates included people like Honorable Ruben Dolo of Makadara,
Okay.
and people like Ranalo of the Ranalo restaurant, who can attest to what I'm saying today. Then eventually, J.J. Kamodo adopted me, not as a son, but as a guardian.
Okay.
And by then he was Minister for Higher Education.
All right.
And when I finished my Form 4, he actually literally sponsored me to high school, plus the late Njiru, the MP former assistant minister from Kirinyaga. And in fact, when they died, I attended their funerals, and they made me to be what I am today.
Okay, very well then. Later on, you became a police.
Yes,
Why did you decide to join the force?
Well, when I went to St. Peter's Mumias for my A-levels, we were the second pioneers. And we tried our level best. I got 1 principal and 3 subsidiaries, which totaled 6 points.
Okay.
But those who got 7 points with at least 2 principals, they went to the university. So I was short of going to the university. But in my mind, I was like, well, one day I will. And that's why I decided to join the Kenya Police as a constable.
Okay.
Because I wanted at least to do something.
Yeah.
Then when I joined the police, I came back, and I was posted in Central Police Station. Then years later, Moi, by then he was the president, he gave an order that all Form 6 graduates who are in the police be taken back to Kenya Police College for special SOIP, special inspectorate course.
Okay.
Which I went, I came back, and then I was posted here in Kasarani.
Brown, just here?
Yes,
Okay.
when I became an inspector.
Okay.
Before I joined the National Security Intelligence.
Okay.
By that time, they called it Special Branch.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. But what was your ambition before you joined the police force?
My ambition was to serve, to be a servant in whichever capacity. And also, I thought I would do better in the police, because police work is God ordained. Those who really know the meaning of the word police is to serve. You're like a priest. You're serving the subjects of God in another way. You're protecting lives and property.
You could have become a teacher.
Yes, I was a teacher before, an untrained teacher before I joined the police.
All right.
And my students read of people like Honorable Majakhoya, whom I taught in Form 4 in Ravel Secondary School. I taught lawyers like Jacob Mtula, and there are those who are, but I was an untrained teacher. But I did not have the opportunity to go and do a diploma in education.
All this, the 55-year-old professor, George Majakhoya, attributes to his childhood problems when he lived as a street boy from the age of 6 until a good Samaritan showed up and doors began opening for him.
The country has suffered for many, many years since independence. We have had economic exclusion, not inclusion, where the Minister of Finance, right from the central bank governor down the drain, as well as the provincial commissioners, belong to one ethnic community. We have also had 7 PCs before, and I'm not blaming Uhuru on this, who are from one ethnic community, or those who are not were sons of previous collaborators. Where is this country going? Unless we speak about it, What are we going to do? Are we coming to speak with very good English here because we went to universities, best refined universities in the world, so that we can be seen to be speaking, yet the main core value of this country is really going into the drain? People like Raila Odinga ought to be respected. This man's bones have been broken. His flesh has been eaten in the cells by bugs, but his spirit has not died. Therefore, reconciliation should not come from these young men who are in diapers when Raila was fighting for justice in this country. I'm not saying I'm supporting Raila, but I'm telling my brother Uhuru Kenyatta that this country is bigger than him. He should rule to the will of the people, the preamble of the Constitution, which gives him the authority, but the choice of Kenyans, not him coming to impede what ought not to be there. And people's assemblies are key in discussing way forward.
Kenyan Immigration Act is very, very clear on dual nationality. It's also very clear as to who has right to become a Kenyan citizen and who can take it away. It can only be taken away by the courts of law, not the executive, not Matiang'i, not Uhuru Kenyatta, not Raila Odinga, not anybody. But there's another category in Canada which says that any person can become a dual national of any other country, in which case Miguna comes under this category. Now, citizenry in Canada is too tired. We have citizens of Canada under the Dominion, that is New Zealand, Australia, and Britain, and the Dominionship owes its allegiance to the Queen of England, whereby any person born within the Dominion can actually, any person born within the dominions that I've mentioned can claim citizenship of any of those countries or move freely without immigration control. Because by the time he was becoming a citizen of Canada, he became a citizen of Canada through the UNCHR, United Nations High Commission for Refugees, because he's a person who was running from persecution, and he was therefore granted refugee status, and he had actually to satisfy the residents. But the question that is being purported by the Director of Immigration, the Director of Immigration within 24 hours came up with a proposition or supposition that Miguna had renounced his citizenship. Now, how did he get this information, which is under the Official Secrets Act in Canada, which can only be availed through the Canadian court with the consent of the Canadian government, Miguna being party to that litigation? Did he acquire this information illegally through the Canadian embassy? The answer is no. And how did he acquire it within 24 hours of Miguna's arrest and deportation? That somebody somewhere is lying. And as an immigration practitioner in North America, Britain and EU, and right now in Kenya, it's highly suspect that even if they acquired that information, they ought to have given that information in court in defense of their case against Miguna. Therefore, Miguna's deportation was arbitrary, it was contrary to natural justice, it was uncalled for, it was illegal, it was unproportionate, it did not go within the proportional rationality, in which case it should be condemned. And thank God that the courts have found for him, and therefore he should be returned without any limitations. Now, when it comes to the permanent secretary coming up and saying that there is national interest can only be overridden through the courts of law, where the government can come up with legitimacy, very high standards to be applied, strict scrutiny, legitimate expectation on national security. That case can actually be tried in camera. But it's the onerous of evidence is actually on the government to come in and convene the court that Miguna was a person of this particular disposition. But even if there was deportation order granted, that would be unlawful because you cannot deport a Kenyan citizen by birth, period.
Kenya is in debt, and Kenya borrows 2 billion every day, and it keeps on borrowing and borrowing, so the borrowing ceiling has gone beyond common sense. So I would like to pay off the Chinese debt, and the only shortest way to pay is by legalizing and growing marijuana for commercial and industrial and medicinal purposes. There are so many ways which I will go into details, I've already spoken about, but the easiest way is to legalize, because the world is legalizing marijuana and it's a gold mine today. It's just like oil in the Middle East. So why can't we take what God has given us, which is natural, available,
and affordable and export it. I've never smoked, but I intend to smoke after we legalize it. We shall suspend and remove what is not making Kenyan nation to move and keep what Kenyans want to. But it will be up to Kenyan to look at it and say, what do you want for us to have? There are countries without constitution. Israel is one of them. New Zealand is another one. Britain is another one, as well as Canada. So we have parliament. I'll rule through parliament at that particular time. I don't like those things.
You don't?
No.
At all? You don't?
I'm 62 years. I don't want to do what my children are doing. I don't have.
You have any?
I don't have any.
Do you know any Kenyan musician?
Well, I know the young kids that are brought up like Bahati and empowered them, but I don't have that. I have taste for Zairan music.
Who is your favorite Zairan,
Nyoka Longa.
Yes. Favorite song?
Where a song, no, but Nyoka Longa is my favorite. Of course, most of them are my clans, including Kofi Olomide. But Nyoka Longa makes me dance. Yeah, I spend my leisure time by reading. I read a lot. I just finished another degree, postgraduate degree, diploma from Nairobi University. I'm doing my second PhD, and first one was honorary anyway. But I've done a lot of things within a very short time, and I should be doing about 8 or 9, and maybe diplomas and degrees put together they are 14. When I was at Chokora, I was deprived of my life. So when I went to school, became a grave digger. I didn't want to dig graves forever in England. I didn't want to be a security guard forever. So I just wanted to go to school. I am a vegetarian. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't eat meat, I don't eat fish. But my favorite is vegetables. They have their own opinion. Yeah. They talk of things that I don't even know. I can't say, but they know better. That's an enclone of psychological lunacy. People singing and dancing, trying to hoodwink Kenyans with stupidity. I'm issue-based. I'll talk to you the way we are talking, and we talk on issues. I'm not going to be dancing and singing for people out there like those people you're seeing. After stealing from the same people, you want to go and excite them and pay them the money you've stolen to vote for you to steal again. I think Kenyans should wake up this time, and they should look at what they want. Me, I'm just here to do what I can do on terms of sovereignty. But if they don't vote for me, it's okay. I will have no grudge against them. But my life will continue. In England, I was a grave digger, security guard, a student, and I shed tears throughout because of loneliness. In the US, I went back to school, and I've gone through traversed corridors of power, justice. At least in the US, I've been able to address congressional members, several committees. I've been recognized in the US more than any other part of the world. My wife is from there. Of course, my children were born and raised in Britain, they're British. In the US, there's civility and humanity. At least I was given the opportunity to speak, and there people recognize me. Members of the Senate recognize me, academics recognize me. But here, I don't really care whether they recognize me or not. I came to pursue my mom, who had been divorced when I was very young, and I found her after 53 years living in a shack. I also came to pursue my family to find out where they were, and I found them, and that was the best thing that God ever did for me. My father just passed the other day after he'd given me a piece of land, and I gave him one of the best burials on earth, and I'm telling Diamond, wherever he is, to reconcile with his father. When I reconciled with my dad, because my mother had been divorced, and I spent a lot building my house before burying him. I spent almost 2.8 million in a small house, lit the village, and buried my father like a king. And that was the best thing, and the glories and the benefits I've gotten from that is peace. I'm now very peaceful. They should be very happy, arm themselves on the day of voting. Their future is changed immediately. I'm voted in. We shall be able to sell enough marijuana to restore sanity in this country and give every Kenyan money, build infrastructure, and make the youth happy.